Hello and welcome to the second episode in this series of functional programming in JavaScript. Today we're going to take a look at the filter function. Just like the map function we looked at in the last episode, the filter function is part of the array object, and it's used for filtering elements out of an array. Now let's take a look at some code. In this example, we're going to be using the same data we did in the previous example. We have an array of users, and we're going to use filter to remove any user that's under the age of 23. Before we look at filter though, let's look at how we could achieve this using a for loop. We start by creating an array to hold the older users in. We then use a for loop to loop over each item in the original users array, and if that user's age is greater than 22, we push that user into this new array. There's nothing very exciting here, but it gets the job done. Now let's look at how we could do this using the filter method. Let's start by removing the for loop. Next we'll call filter on the original users array. Filter takes a few arguments, but the first one and the most important one is a callback function. The way filter works is that it loops over each item in an array and passes each element in that array to this callback function. So let's do that now. In this case we'll call it user. And whatever this callback function returns decides whether or not that element is pushed into the new array. If the callback function returns true, the element is pushed in. If it doesn't, it isn't pushed in. So in this case, we want to keep every user whose age is greater than 22. So let's do that. And if we run this code, we should see that only 2 elements remain. Perfect. Because functions like filter and map just return another array, it allows us to chain these methods together. So let's look at an example of how this works. Here we're calling filter on the users array. But let's take it one step further and we'll call map as well. So here we filtered out any user whose age isn't greater than 22, and then we're replacing that user object with a string stating that the user is older than 22. Let's run this code and see what happens. Yep, that's exactly what we'd expect. So hopefully this is a good example for you as to how these functional programming methods can help you write really clean, succinct code. So that wraps up this episode of functional programming in JavaScript. Today we had a look at the filter method and how we can use it to remove elements from an array. We also had a look at how we can chain this method along with methods like map to create clean, succinct code. In the next episode, we're going to take a look at the reduce method. Bye bye!